Hey, Cypher here. Today we're going to talk about gun control. Not my opinion of it, or anybody else's opinion on it. What it actually is in America at the federal level. Now, I'm not going to talk about previous bans like the Clinton gun ban or anything like that, because they're no longer in effect. People's opinions on this matter tend to come first before actual rational conversation. One side's always talking about how the NRA is taking over, or that there's too many guns in America, while the other side often talks about it like teenagers having their toys taken away. And even worse is the fundamental misunderstanding of what the Second Amendment truly is. If you want to know more on what the Second Amendment means, you should probably go to the Supreme Court. I did an entire episode on this. Click right here to see that. But in order to talk about what gun control should be, we should know what it is in America right now. I'm not going to be talking about state and local governments, only stuff at the federal level, because it's too much to do otherwise. I'm also talking about laws that are currently codified. Nothing like the Clinton gun ban, because it is no longer relevant. The first form of gun control that came into America was the National Firearms Act of 1934. It levied a tax on certain firearms. Shotguns, machine guns, explosives, silencers, all of that ilk now require a tax stamp in order to get one. It also created a registry of all of those specific guns. These tax stamps are actually really hard to get a hold of, and so many manufacturers have stopped making NFA weapons. But that wasn't viewed as enough as it is, so the government enacted the Gun Control Act of 1968. It heavily regulated interstate trade, making it so that you had to have a federal firearms license in order to deal in interstate weapons. This completely stopped mail-order guns. It used to be that you could go to a Sears catalog and order a rifle and have it delivered to you the next morning. That is no longer the case. It also stated that no FFL dealer could knowingly deal to felons or the mentally ill. This act is now referred to as Title I gun control, whereas the NFA is referred to as Title II. Title I has been amended several times, most notably in 1986 with the Firearm Owners Protection Act. The ATF at that point had been doing too many search and seizures under fairly bad circumstances. So the federal government put a stop to it and also stopped them from creating a registry of all Title I guns, though Title II guns have to be registered. But as an added provision to it, it completely eliminated machine guns from commercial trade after 1986. So if you want to buy a machine gun, you have to get one that was made prior to 1986. Interestingly enough, that's the only abolishment of an entire weapon class in United States history, save for explosives and large bore guns. And the conservative symbol, Ronald Reagan, signed it into law. It's still possible to get machine guns, but they're really expensive, and it still requires a lot of paperwork, and some states don't even allow them at all. Then in 1990, the Gun-Free School Zone Act was passed into law. It basically makes it illegal to carry a gun within 1,000 feet of a school zone. There are a few exceptions, and sometimes there's lenience in terms of accidentally being in a school zone with a gun. But otherwise, it's completely illegal at the federal level, though some states have tried to countermand this. Then in 1993, the Brady Handgun Violence Protection Act was brought into play. It makes anybody going to an FFL dealer have to pass an FBI background check. And since most gun dealers are FFL'd, you have to get a background check every time. There's some ways of getting around this by having already been background checked that year and other things like that, but it still means that you have to have a background check with you. And most states make it so that you have to get a background check at gun shows too, even if you're going to a private seller without an FFL. Then in 1996, the Domestic Violence Offenders Gun Ban was enacted. It added domestic offenders to the cannot buy list. In fact, they're not supposed to own any at all after they've been convicted. There's a few other gun control measures that are still in law, like handguns can only be sold to people 21 and over, but the rest of it isn't particularly important, at least for the consumer. What Title I means is that certain people are completely barred from getting weapons, and we'll have them taken away if they fall into that class. Now, we talk about 100% background checks, which is not happening right now, but it's possible, though it would be incredibly hard to control and cost a great deal of money, for no good reason really, especially considering that we already have background checks on most gun purchases already. Now, none of this has been eliminated under the Second Amendment, though it's possible that it might, but the Supreme Court has not ruled on it, and they're the only ones who can. So that's pretty much gun control at the federal level. There's a lot of law on it, isn't there? If you want to read up on it yourself, there's links in the description. The question then becomes whether or not gun control has been effective thus far, and whether or not there should be more of it. Or less. Maybe you can leave a well-reasoned comment about why there should be more or less. Unfortunately, there's not very good studies to show that any of these gun control measures have been effective. Gun violence is going to continue no matter what, and especially considering we do have certain rights, you cannot completely eliminate guns. But there's also a lot more violence on other terms. In any case, one should always consider what already is before considering what there should be in terms of gun control. If you like what I said, hit the like button, comment what you think, and subscribe. I'll see you next time.